So Math 3, this is basically the last new topic. We're going to be solving some trig equations. People always find this to be harder than it really is, so don't fret. It's actually pretty simple, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to solve these equations that you're given. You're going to find all the different possible values that exist for these equations in the domain where it says, right here, between 0 and 2 pi. What does this mean? This means you're going to find the answers to your equations on the unit circle and write down all of the radians that match the answer, okay, between 0 and 2 pi. So anywhere on one rotation of the unit circle. Not too bad. Okay, so let's look and see how this works. All right, for the most part, we're going to give you pretty simple equations. Okay, so the first one, you have cosine of x is equal to negative root 3 over 2. What does this mean? Okay, so since we're dealing with cosine, we're looking for the x terms. Okay, so what you want to do is on your unit circle, so you should have that handy. So on the unit circle, what you're going to do is you're going to find all the x values that are negative root 3 over 2. And there are going to be 2 of them. Okay, so the x value of the unit circle that is negative root 3 over 2 is, there's 2 of them. I said 5 pi over 6. And the other one is 7 pi over 6. And that's it. You're done. There's nothing else to do. Okay, you're going to solve your equation. You're going to find the answer on the unit circle. You're going to write them all down. That's all you're going to do. Number 2. So we have to solve this for cosine of x. Okay, so we have to get cosine of x by itself. To do this, we're going to divide both sides by 2. So we're going to have the cosine of x is equal to negative 1/2. Again, we're dealing with cosine, so this is the x term on your unit circle. So you're going to find all the instances where the x value on the unit circle is negative 1/2. Okay, so if we're looking at the points, negative 1/2 happens twice. On the x term, it's going to be 2 pi over 3. The other one is going to be 4 pi over 3. That's it. Okay, so you're solving these equations for either sine or cosine, and whatever the answer is, you find that on the unit circle in the right position and write down the radians. All right, number 3. This is a little bit trickier. Okay, so now we have sine squared of x equals 3/4. Okay, so what we want to do is get sine by itself. In order to do that, we have to get rid of the squared sign, so we're going to square root both sides. So the squared and the square root will go away. You have sine of x is equal to the square root of 3, and the square root of 4 is just 2. Now, one thing that students will often forget, and I'm probably sure you're going to forget it too, anytime you take an equation and you square root both sides, you have to have plus or minus. Okay, so the answer is sine of x is equal to plus or minus root 3 over 2. So now we're going to find out all the situations on the unit circle where this time, since we're dealing with sine, we're looking for the y term. Where are the y terms going to be positive or negative root 3 over 2 on the unit circle? There are 4 of them. Okay, so when y is root 3 over 2, either positive or negative, you have pi over 3. You have 2 pi over 3. You have 4 pi over 3. And you have 5 pi over 3. So all the different instances where the y value is negative root 3 over 2 or positive root 3 over 2, that's what you write down. All right, same idea here. We have sine squared of x equals 1/4. So we're going to square root both sides. So sine of x is going to equal, now remember what we just said, since you squared root both sides, you got to put plus or minus. The square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 4 is 2. We're going to find out where all the instances where the y term, since it is sine, is positive or negative 1/2. All right, again, there are 4 of them. So you have pi over 3. You have 2 pi over 3. You have 4 pi over 3. And you have 5 pi over 3. All right. Let's go up to 5. Okay, so to get cosine by itself, you've got to subtract 1 from both sides. So cosine of x is equal to -1. So now we're looking for all the instances where the x term is -1. Right? There's only one time on the unit circle where the x value is -1, and that is at pi. Now we're done. All right, number 6. To get sine of x by itself, we're going to add 1. So we got 2 sine of x is equal to 1. Then we have to divide by 2. So sine of x is equal to 1/2. So where is the y value going to be 1/2? It's going to be positive 1/2. So there's only 2 spots. It's pi over 6. And it is at 5 pi over 6. There's only 2 places on the unit circle where the y value is positive 1/2. All right, next we have sine squared of x minus 1. So the first step is going to be add 1 to both sides. Okay, now to get rid of the squared sign, we're going to square root both sides. So the square and square root will go away. So we have sine of x is equal to, again, because we square rooted both sides, it's going to be plus or minus 1. So we're looking for where is sine, the y value, going to be positive or -1. There are 2 spots. There's pi over 2, and there is 3 pi over 2. And lastly, cosine of x is 0. Okay. So in this case, where is the x value on the unit circle going to be 0? There are 2 spots. There's pi over 2. There's 3 pi over 2. And that is it. That is how you solve a trig equation. All right. Adios.